Hey everybody, this is attorney Joe Murphy from Allegheny Immigration Group. I'm live on Facebook. Talk to you tonight, take some questions, go over some topics. Everybody's been cooped up for a couple days because of Corona, and I figure it might be fun to see if anybody had questions and see what's going on in the immigration world. I think today I'm going to talk about a couple topics. The first one is the work permits based on Liberian green card applications. Those have started coming in. It's going well. I posted some pictures of them and some of the features on our Allegheny Immigration Group Facebook page and YouTube channel. If you want to take a look at those, it's kind of a neat video that goes over one. Talk about bad marriage interviews and how that might affect future immigration options of anyone who'd been through one. We're going to talk about immigration medical examinations tonight. That's been a hot topic of late, especially with Liberian green card applications. There's a medical exam needed anytime you apply for a green card. And we're going to talk about the timing of those, when they expire, when they're good, and what you might want to do. Ultimately, it's important to know that the USCIS is still operating. That is to say, while the offices are closed, the physical offices, they're still taking applications we mail in and responding to them. I just got a work permit in the mail today, so the stuff is still going back and forth from our office and USCIS. So don't be afraid to file for things now. On that note, our Liberian green card special is still running for another 3 days. Now, a lot of people are crying, Joe, with the Corona, so on and so forth, can you extend it? I'm going to have to make a decision about that over the weekend. But for now, that special is still good through the 30th, and that special is $3,000 out the door. It includes us appearing as your lawyer, Liberian green card application, the application for Liberian green card work permit, and it includes all filing fees. So that special is good at least until the 30th. We may extend it because of Corona. I can't make any promises, but if you want to talk to me about that, my cell, text, and WhatsApp are all the same number, 412-973-3442. My name's Joe Murphy. People call me all the time with questions. You can too. I want to be available to you, and I want to be a resource to you throughout the Liberian Green Card Program and any other immigration needs you may have. All right, so let's talk about some of these topics. Obviously, I'm not making it to Brooklyn Park this weekend. I've been coming every 2 weeks to help people with their Liberian Green Card applications, but I'm kind of locked down. I did actually look at tickets to Brooklyn Park, and as you can imagine, they're sharply discounted over the regular rate, but I'm kind of on lockdown here. Now, please, if anybody has any questions, I see there's a couple people in the room, just go ahead and type them in. I won't be able to type back to you, but I can answer you on the air. And if you have something too complicated to answer in here, I'll get back to you after the live. But if you have a question, I can take them here, and I have no problem. You could even jump in on this live if you want to talk to me and show your face. Not everybody does. Again, my name is Joe Murphy. I'm a lawyer with Allegheny Immigration Group. My cell, text, and WhatsApp are all the same number, 412-973-3442. I'm here on Facebook Live to take your immigration questions, particularly if you have questions about the Liberian Green Card Program. We're in the third month of that already. It's 25% gone, so it really is time to put the pedal to the metal. I don't know what Corona is going to go or how that's going to affect things going forward, but USCIS for now is still open. We're mailing things to them and getting stuff back as of today. And that's special on the Liberian Green Card Program. That includes the Liberian Green Card, work permit based on Liberian Green Card, and it includes all filing fees. That's $3,000 out the door. The only thing that's not included is your medical exam. I'm not allowed to give medical exam. I'm a lawyer, not a doctor, but that's still going on. But that's special. We may have to extend it because of Corona, but I'm kind of fighting against that. All right, so let's talk about the prior bad marriage problem. I'm getting more than a few situations where people have been through a marriage to an American citizen, that's a foreign citizen and an American citizen, are married, and there's a green card applied for on that basis, and that green card is ultimately denied. Okay, the important thing to remember is that there's two types of denials of green card based on marriage, particularly with a bad interview. The first one is the common one, and that's just a failure to meet your burden of proof. That's where they don't conclude anything bad about you or your spouse, but they concluded that you guys didn't have enough proof that the marriage was bona fide. Okay, that's the first kind. The second kind is a kind that has serious immigration consequences, and that's where they believe you committed marriage fraud. If they make a finding that you entered a marriage for the purpose of evading the immigration laws or as a fraud, you're not going to be able to get a green card. No one can file any further petitions for you until that finding is overturned or disturbed. So it's very important if you're thinking of filing for other immigration benefits after you've been through a bad marriage interview that you have to look at the letter they gave you denying that bad marriage interview. And I'll give you the example. In some cases, like they say, there's just not enough evidence to say you met the burden of proof. They say you failed to meet your burden of proof. That's similar to going into a store and not having enough money to pay for everything that you wanted. You just can't have it all. On the other case where they conclude that you've committed fraud, that's more like a burglary, and there really are serious immigration consequences to that. If you have either type of case, don't hesitate to call me. I'm very good at getting those overturned. Again, my name is Joe Murphy. I'm a lawyer with Allegheny Immigration Group in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Practice all over the United States. Don't be concerned that my office is in Pittsburgh. The office number is 412-521-2000. My cell, text, and WhatsApp are all the same number, 412-973-3442. And you could tune in. I'll be on here live once in a while. I try and regularly produce immigration content, valuable, short little videos, tips, tricks, things like that. And if you look at our Allegheny Immigration Group Facebook page or YouTube channel, you'll see a lot of that stuff on there. It's free. There's no obligation. It's informative, and it might help you avoid maybe a mistake somebody else made, or even one I learned from as a younger lawyer. But that's the skinny on those marriage interviews. If you get a bad marriage interview and that's denied, you have to look very carefully at the way the denial letter is worded. In most cases, and that's the vast majority, 90% of cases, what they conclude is that you just failed to meet your burden of proof that the marriage is bona fide. That's very different than a case where they conclude that the marriage is fraudulent. And if you get either one of those types of denials, Omar is warning me about Corona. We're going to talk about Corona tonight, so stick around, Omar. I can help you with that too. But if you get one of those denials where they tell you that they found it was fraudulent, particularly, you're not going to be able to get any further immigration benefits of any kind, no matter who files for them, unless you get that overturned, and you're going to need to talk to me. My name is Joe Murphy, Allegheny Immigration Group, 412-521-2000 is the office. My cell, text, and WhatsApp are all the same number, 412-973-3442. Our website is AlleghenyImmigration.com, and of course you can see our Facebook page and YouTube channel for more videos like this. All right, so the immigration medical exam. Now that has been a topic, and let's get into that. Any green card application has to be accompanied by a medical exam, and that medical exam can be submitted with the application or at any time up to clarification on medical. All right, somebody's asking me to clarify the medical. Medical. All right, so anybody who wants to get a green card has to prove they're not inadmissible on medical grounds, and that means they have to be examined to make sure they don't have certain communicable diseases. Syphilis is on the list, gonorrhea, a couple other, leprosy's on the list. These are terrible. Tuberculosis, terrible infectious diseases. There's also some things that have been put on there by presidential order, smallpox, for example, and then there's diseases that are classified as public health emergencies of international concern by the World Health Organization. Unfortunately, coronavirus is on that list, and if you have it, you'll fail your medical. But the medical exam has to be submitted on any green card application, any new green card, even if you had a medical in the past, even if you're in good health, and it has to be done by an immigration medical doctor, and there's a list of them. It's I'll put it on the screen later when I edit this, but there's an actual website you can go to that'll help you find it. That medical is good for 2 years from the date you get a clean bill of health, so that's the first thing you need to know, but after 2 years, it's no longer good. The other thing you need to know, and this is kind of a trap for the unwary, is that it has to be filed with whatever application you're filing that needs a medical within 60 days of the doctor's signature. That means that you can't get a medical and sit on it, okay? It has to be, if you take your medical today, you have 60 days to file whatever that medical is for, or the medical will be expired. That doesn't mean the filing is bad, but it'll be rejected because there's no medical. So I'll give you a couple hypothetical examples. If I get suppose I want to file for a green card and I get my medical exam today, I have to get my green card application in and before the examining officer in 60 days. Given that it takes them 30 days to respond to almost anything that's mailed, I have a very short window in which to prepare and file my green card application. That would probably be a bad move. On the other hand, if I filed my green card application today, I wouldn't get a response for 30 days, and I wouldn't have a file number to send the medical into. So I might want to say, file my green card wait 30 days until I have a file number assigned to my case, file 12345. And then when I submitted the medical later, I would tell it, please add this to file 12345. The medical can actually be handed in at any point in time up to your exam, not your exam, your interview. So if you wanted to, if they scheduled interviews 60 days out, they rarely do, when you got notice of the interview, you could then go get a medical. Or when you got notice of the interview, you could ask to postpone the interview so you could get a medical. Those are options too. I did a live, it's on the Allegheny Immigration Group Facebook and YouTube, about how Corona affects the immigration medical and why people who are thinking of filing a green card ought to go get their medical. The thing is, if you run out and get a medical to lock in your corona-free diagnosis, you then only have 60 days to file. My pleasure. Somebody's saying thank you for the explanation. I hope you're being honest. Sometimes my explanations, particularly in lives, aren't as glib as my explanations in those nicely edited videos that I get to do. But that's the deal. There's two deadlines you have to remember, and that is you have to file your medical with the application that needs a medical within 60 days of the doctor's signature, and no more than 2 years after that it expires. So like if you were to file it within 60 days of the doctor's signature and the government were to take 3 years to adjudicate your application, they might say you need to redo your medical at that time. All right, now I have another issue here. I've had a few questions. Is USCIS still working? And the answer is yes. The field offices are closed. They don't want to get the corona. They're worried people will come in and cough booger head foreign diseases on them. But as far as the mail-in stuff, we're still doing that. They're still accepting mailed-in applications, at least the ones we're mailing in, and they're responding to them. I received work permits, Liberian green card work permits. I received one yesterday and one today, and this is Friday, March 27th. Those particular applications I filed on, I think we mailed them on February 14th. We got a receipt date of February 21st. So it looks like just a little bit under 2 months. I think I calculated it as 9 weeks total processing time from filing for that to receiving the actual Liberian green card program based work permits. And those came in today. Let's see. Now, please, if anybody has questions, there's a couple people in the room, and I know sometimes these videos get shared to other chat rooms. I'm here to take your questions. This is free. There's no obligation. If you have an immigration question and you want to just type it in the chat room, I'll be happy to answer it here. I'm here as a resource for you, and I want to quarterback particularly the Liberian green card program, but that doesn't mean you have to have a question about the Liberian green card program. You could ask me about whatever, extending your student visa, filing for asylum. I know how to do all that stuff. I practice primarily family and humanitarian immigration, so I might not be the best resource for employment-based immigration questions, but certainly anything that's family immigration related or humanitarian related. And humanitarian immigration is stuff like asylum, refugee classification, the Liberian program. Those are all humanitarian immigrations. I do want to remind you all that the Liberian green card special that we're running does end on the 30th. That's 3 days from now. We are now over 3 months into the Liberian green card program. I try and post a reminder every once in a while of how much time is left. My big fear is people are going to jump in at the end of the program. Around Thanksgiving, I'm going to have 500 people wanting me to file their Liberian green card applications. I have a small office. It's just me, Amanda, and April. I couldn't handle that many all at once. I need to do this slowly and pace it, and that's why I'm running these specials. A lot of people have been asking me to extend the Liberian green card program special because of Corona. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do that. It's not really a great moneymaker for me. It is a, I mean, look, I'm running a business here, and it's kind of a loss leader. The idea, again, was to try and, almost like the Corona program itself, flatten the curve by making it less expensive at the beginning, to get people signed up and processed before the big tidal wave of cases I anticipate late summer and fall. The original plan was on March 30th, and that's timed to coincide with the end of the DED program. No real reason. It's just that that's a good thing. A lot of people on DED, it helps them remember. The idea was, again, to get people to sign up early so that I wouldn't have to deal with a flood of people at the end. If Corona is knocking people out and people really want a deal, I could maybe extend it another week or two, but that's got to be the living end of this. It's just, and people are coming in. I had a guy come in today, called up this morning, spoke with Amanda. Amanda is at home because we're all supposed to be quarantined, and the office phones are forwarded to Amanda's house. Amanda picked up, and I happened to be in the office today doing paperwork. She sent him down. The guy came in. We signed him up for the Liberian Green Card program at the special price today. In one day, out the door. Really nice deal. Really nice fellow, by the way. And if he's watching, he knows who he is. But we had a good time. We even went out and got new pictures of him at the local chain department or chain drugstore across the street, and that was kind of fun too. While he was getting his pictures taken, I went to see if there was any sanitizer, and I found one teeny little travel size bottle that was left that I bought it because, you know, I'm working, I'm out in the world. How long will it take to get the work permit after you get your receipt? Okay, so there's a question about how long it takes to get a work permit. The first ones we're getting now took 9 weeks, and that's 9 weeks from when we filed. We filed the work permit and green card applications together, and that took 9 weeks. Now, it's been my experience that the first responses are not a good indicator of how long things are going to take, and I'll tell you what I mean. The first receipts we got on Liberian took 3 weeks to get. All right, so we filed those in the middle of February or middle of January, and in early February we got receipts for filing our initial Liberian green card applications. But then everybody was looking for theirs in 3 weeks, and right now the receipts are coming in like 4 or 5 weeks. So you know, that 9 weeks is probably not going to be the number going forward. Depending upon volume, it may take them longer. My guess is it'll probably be 11 or 12 weeks on average by the time this thing levels off. Yeah, I mean, for people who are expiring or have expiring DED cards, there is a procedure to expedite them. There's a video about that on my Allegheny Immigration Group Facebook page, and it's also posted on the Allegheny Immigration Group YouTube channel. For those of you who have interest in the Liberian Green Card program, I really strongly encourage you to subscribe to those. Obviously, I like to show off my videos and so on and so forth. But a lot of those are really, some of them are to sell you things, some of them are to talk to you like this, some of them are to give you tips. I mean, there are people self-filing. There's nothing I can do about that. Obviously, I wish you wouldn't, but I understand people can't always afford lawyers. Try and keep the price down. But if I've got a tip I can give you that you could use, I do try and put it on there. There's some tips about locking in your medical. I did one recently about, I don't remember, but there's stuff on there that I'm trying to create stuff that's valuable, informative, and useful to people who are watching the page. And I will be doing that throughout the program. As I learn things, as I figure out processing times, tips, tricks, and workarounds, I'll be posting them on the Allegheny Immigration Group YouTube channel primarily, and cross-posting them on Facebook. That's the Allegheny Immigration Group Facebook page. I know a lot of people don't like Facebook, so I put it in both places. I also sometimes dump the stuff into the Liberians in Minnesota Facebook page, and sometimes I also post in the Librarians in Minnesota WhatsApp group. So you can look in there too and see my videos, but they're dedicated to something else, not just my firm. Okay. Somebody asked a question. What does it mean? Interview is complete and my case must be reviewed, and how long will it take to review it? All right, well, that's generally not the greatest news there. The question is, what does it mean that your interview was complete and your case must be reviewed, and how long will it take it to review it? There's more to that. I can't get these. Well, the general thing is that you've submitted an interview and someone wants to look at it and see if there's enough evidence to prove that it was a bona fide marriage. Usually when a marriage is really, really bona fide, they can tell right away. I mean, it looks... walks like a duck, talks like a duck, and they can make a very quick decision, and you get that back. When they go into review, they're going to probably decide whether to deny it. They're almost certainly going to deny it, and they're trying to decide whether they want to deny it based on failure to make your burden of proof, or based on a claim that you're engaged in marriage fraud. So what they're doing right now is not reviewing your case or your file or even what was said in the interview. An adverse recommendation has been made, and now they're probably looking through your social media and things like that, your work, see if you filed taxes as jointly, to see if you have anything together, or if anything particularly separate, that from which they could conclude that not only did you fail to meet your burden, but they're also looking to see if there's anything in there to indicate that you may be engaged in marriage fraud. And again, as I said, that those bad marriage interviews, when they deny an I-130 based on a bad marriage interview, there's two types of denials. There's a denial where you failed to meet your burden of proof that the marriage is bona fide, and that's kind of like going to a store and just not having enough money to buy what you put on the counter, right? You just failed to meet your burden. It's not the same thing as the other one, which is like going into a store and stealing, or at least trying. So they're trying to look right now. What they do is an investigation. They'll check to see whether the kids are registered in schools in the right districts, whether they may come to your house to do a view and see if you have anything there of each other. There's different stuff they do along that lines. If you'd like a more detailed talk on that, you can. My cell, text, and WhatsApp are 412-973-3442. My name's Joe Murphy. I'm a lawyer with Allegheny Immigration Group. Do a lot of that kind of work. So, but I can't, without getting more into the details, give you much more information, in this format. That doesn't mean I'm not happy to talk to you. There's no charge for this. I mean, I do this as a public service. It's part of a lawyer's duty to perform public service lawyering stuff. And of course, if you want to hire me for something, I can do that. I have a wife and kids and a family and have to pay bills. But this part of it you can enjoy, use, share, and it's free, and hopefully it's useful to you. Again, my name is Joe Murphy. I'm a lawyer with Allegheny Immigration Group in Pittsburgh, PA. My practice is all over the United States. I'm in Brooklyn Park, with the exception of this weekend because of Corona. I'm in Brooklyn Park every 2 weeks. I fly into town. It's a pretty easy flight for me, and I've come to kind of enjoy it. I jump on a plane Friday around noon. It's about 90 minutes to get there. It's almost another 90 minutes before you're in Brooklyn Park because that airport's so big, and then you got to take a ride up there on Uber or whatever. But I generally stay right in Brooklyn Park to make it easy for people in the community who need Liberian green cards to get to me. Usually take quite a few consults over the course of the weekend. I start early Friday afternoon, meet a couple people. A couple of them have been kind enough to stay with me for dinner, which is fun because it's a write-off to me. The firm I'm allowed to take the client out to dinner. And more importantly, it's good to have someone to have dinner with. Otherwise, I'm just some tragic old immigration lawyer having dinner by himself in some not so incredible hotel restaurant. Restaurant. Yes, of course. Yeah, Uber is total disaster. We got in one here, and I don't know if anybody else has noticed this, but like some of these Uber drivers are complete weed heads. I had some clients from Somalia come here to my office in Pittsburgh, and the man was trying to sponsor his wife. She's in a refugee camp down in, I think, Nigeria, but he didn't have his income tax returns, and you have to have income tax returns to prove income and the ability to support your wife. That's part of what's required for a sponsorship. And he's like, I don't know where to get him. I'd have to go back to H&R Block. And, my office in Pittsburgh is about 1 mile from the federal building. So I said, well, look, let's jump in an Uber. We'll go over the federal building. You are you, and you'll just ask him to give you a copy of your income tax return transcripts. He says, great idea, Murph. That saves a lot of time. Let's do it. So I ordered an Uber. We get in the Uber. This car smells like weed. Hey, Ebony, how you doing? Hold on. I'll get to that in a sec. Well, anyway, so we get in this Uber, and it smells of weed. And I'm like trying to keep my patience. And the lady's like driving and listening to music. She's driving right through red lights. I'm like, no. I mean, unbelievable, crazy stuff. And I've had that a couple times with Uber lately, where these people are just zooted. And I should laugh about it because it's actually quite dangerous, but be careful in Uber. It was good advice. All right, now let's see. There's a question. My friend has a question. What is the price for a green card if the wife is in the United States? Well, that's a pretty good question. This is a very common type of legal representation that people need. All right, you've married the woman, and or man. It could be whatever, and you want to know how to get it. So there's a couple things you have to do. The first thing you're going to have to do is file a petition for the alien spouse. That's done on Form I-130. It's $535 right now. Those fees may go up. Unlike the Liberian green card program, immigration based on marriage requires a sponsor, someone to file. Okay, applicant is usually what it's called, or petitioner in many cases. So the citizen spouse files that now petition, and then if that petition is approved, the non-citizen spouse files an application for green card, similar to the application for green card we file in the Liberian case. Because husband and wife is a preference petition, they're relatives of the highest priority, we normally put them all in the same envelope. We also usually put an application for work permit in there too. And that goes to a special office called the FBAS office. See you later, Kalisha. The FBAS office is in Chicago, and that stands for Family-Based Adjustment of Status. The total cost in filing fees right now, but they're going to go up, and I think they're going to go up quite a bit in a couple months. I think the filing fees total $1,760. You need a medical, that's usually another couple $100. Our legal on that's usually about $2,500. So you're looking at a package price in the low 5,000s. Turnaround time. Well, there's one thing I should say though. If the non-citizen spouse, all of this assumes the non-citizen spouse entered the United States legally. Okay, if they walked over a border, you're going to need other work. It's called a waiver. It costs a lot of money. It's a separate type of work. I'm talking about someone who entered the United States legally. Now, even if they entered legally and overstayed, you can still do this. But if they were never legal in the first place, that's different. When people enter legally and overstay, they accrue unlawful presence, but they've been admitted. They're like people who came to a party and just won't leave at the end of the night. That's a whole different thing than people who were never admitted. They just walked across the border. They're more like, and I with respect to those people, but they're more like burglars than overstayed guests, and the law treats them that way. So there's a whole separate series of things that have to be done. So in answer to that question about the cost of immigration based on marriage for a non-citizen spouse, the first thing you have to find out is whether that non-citizen spouse was ever lawfully admitted to the United States, how they got in. In most cases, they come in on a tourist, student, something like that visa, and perhaps have overstayed, fell in love, and married an American. That's fine. That can be forgiven as part of the process of adjusting based on marriage. Processing times on these can be quite long now. A lot of times, when the green card's based on marriage, the initial green card is what's called a conditional permanent resident card, and the condition on it is that the marriage be bona fide. You have to demonstrate that the marriage is good, that it's real, that it's not a scam or a faked up marriage. And where the people fail to demonstrate that, you get into denials, and that's what I was talking about earlier. There's two types of denials. One is where you simply fail to demonstrate that the marriage is real and bona fide. That's okay, it's to be avoided, but that can happen. And the other cases where they conclude that you did a fraud, that's really bad news. And if you get one of those, you're going to need help. That one, there's a lot of stuff that a bright person with the aptitude, patience, and time can do on their own in immigration law. I'm not going to kid you. Now, we can do it faster, better. We've got computers to do it, but it is possible for people to do it themselves. It's designed that way. But when you get into these complicated things, that it doesn't have to be me. Obviously, I'm running a business. I'd like you to hire me. But if you get one of those type of marriage fraud-based denials, you're going to need a lawyer one way or another. Okay, now I have a question here. If someone overstayed, is it a good idea to get advance parole? All right, so you've got a couple things going there. When someone overstays, they immediately start accruing what's called unlawful presence. Unlawful presence can in itself make someone inadmissible. If you overstay by 0 to 180 days, the only thing they really do is cancel your underlying visa. So if you leave, they're not going to let you back in unless you get a new visa. On day 181, they can't issue you any new visa back in the United States for a period of 3 years. On day 366, that's 1 year or more overstay, they can't issue you any new entry in the United States for a period of 10 years. Now, advance parole is used for people who, for one reason or another, would be treated as having abandoned an application. It could also be for people who have applied for asylum. There's a couple different reasons why someone might apply for those types of travel documents. I guess, in answer to that question about advance parole, this person who's overstayed, have they have they filed for any sort of immigration benefit like asylum? What sort of case? She's saying the case is pending with USCIS, but is it a marriage-based case? Is it an asylum case? Is it a Liberian case? I'd have to know what type of case it is. See if she'll give me an answer to that. Well, it depends. All right. While you're doing that, I'll just go on a little bit more about it. It depends on the type of the case. And here's an example. If you come in the United States and apply for asylum, generally you have to stay in here. You certainly can't go back to the country you said was too dangerous and you need asylum from, because that defeats your claim. But what if you came in here seeking asylum from, for example, Iran, and then, okay, I got that. I'll answer that question in a minute. If you came here asking for asylum from Iran, you clearly can't go back to Iran. It defeats the claim that Iran is too dangerous for you. But what if you want to go to Canada? Under normal asylum law, if you go into Canada, the United States is going to say, you've abandoned your asylum application and you need to apply in Canada now. You don't get to asylum shop. If you like it there, then stay there. Let them deal with you. So when people, for example, in an asylum case apply for a travel document, what they're doing is asking for permission to travel to this foreign country without being treated as having abandoned their U.S. application for asylum, or without being required to apply in Canada too. So that's one of the reasons why you might want a travel document. Now, in the case that the viewer's asking about, it's a marriage-based case. So someone overstayed, applied for a green card based on marriage. I'm presuming the 485 and I-130 are pending, and now they want to travel. Yes, you're going to need to apply on a Form 131 for a travel document to do that. If you leave the United States, if anybody leaves the United States while an application for green card is pending, that's treated as abandoning the application. And the only way to avoid that finding is to file for that I-131 travel document. The problem with those now is they're getting kind of sketchy. If you look at the form, they really, particularly in a marriage-based case, they want to. It has to be like a. I'll get to the JVs in a minute, but on the form to apply for that travel document, you have to say like there has to be some like humanitarian or serious like emergency in the family, and they want to know what dates and where you're going. So it's not a general you can just go anywhere you want type of thing. You can apply for those and leave waiting and ask to pick up your travel document in the foreign country. You're gambling very big time on all these. Okay, so here's the one thing it does guarantee. It guarantees that you're leaving the United States won't be treated as having abandoned the underlying application for a green card. That's the only thing you're really guaranteed by getting these, though. You're not guaranteed to be let back in. They could just as easily say, that's great, you've got a marriage application pending, the 485's in, we gave you the travel document, we're not going to treat having left as abandoning your application for a green card, but you can wait out the 2 years of your conditional residency, or your conditional permanent residency. You can wait that out in the home country. They can do that. And if you look at the instructions on Form I-131, particularly the I-131 info page on the USCIS website, there's a lot of warnings about this, that you're not guaranteed to get back in. Those advanced parole documents and things of that nature, they can be sketchy. So I would be very, very careful about that. Careful about that. Now, there's another question here about needing to travel on a U visa. So just for those of you who are unaware of that, and I don't want to embarrass our questioner, so maybe a U visa is just a different type of humanitarian visa. You can look it up. They're usually for victims of crime, and we do a lot of that work here at my office. That's part of the humanitarian immigration component of what we do. Yes, right, because an application for U visa, generally there's two parts to it. One is the, I forget what the form is, 912 or something. I can't remember the exact number, but there is a form that has to be filed with USCIS to even get you in line for the issuance of U visa. We have a new viewer, Sammy Baliasny. Hello, Sammy. How you doing? We're talking about U visas, Sammy, for victims of crime. So there's an initial filing when you're representing someone who wants a U visa that you make. And basically what you're doing is you're asking that the government put this person in line for a U visa. And you're telling them that you need them here because they're a victim of crime and the government wants them to stay. Everybody who enters the United States lawfully gets in because someone wants them here. If it's a marriage, it's the spouse. If it's a tourist visa, it's the tourism industry. If it's a student visa, it's the student industry. In a U visa, it's the prosecutorial apparatus, the government, that wants to prosecute these crimes. Just because whoever did this crime did it to a foreigner, they shouldn't be allowed to get away with that, and they could do it to a regular American another time. So there's still a very strong interest the government has in prosecuting these people. And when you get a U visa, at least in some small way, you're being sponsored by the prosecutor's office that's trying to bring about justice and punish the person who committed the crime. So the problem with U visas is it takes a long time to get them. There's only 10,000 U visas available every year in the United States. In many cases, people who apply for a U visa wait a very long time to get that U visa. So I'd have to know where you're at in the U visa process. If you're relatively recent victim of crime, it'll take about probably 5 or 6, maybe 7 years before you're approved. Right. I'm just going into that. And you can look up these processing times on the USCIS website. If you go to any browser, Google, something like that, and type in USCIS processing times and hit enter, it'll allow you to look up how long it takes on average for applications based on the type of application and the office you filed it with. But so where you're at right now is you're waiting for a visa to become available so that you can apply for your green card. So you do not have a green card application pending that would be abandoned by leaving. You're just waiting for a disposition on your underlying a petition, the one with the prosecutor's affidavit saying they need you for court. So I don't think that would be treated as abandoned by traveling. The question, because once you file a 485, leaving the country will be treated as abandoning that. But the question you're asking is whether the petition to be allowed to file a 485 would be treated as abandoned if you left the United States. I don't think it would. The question becomes, how'd you get back in? I don't know how you entered in the first place. If it was a multiple entry B visa, you'd probably be allowed to come back in on that. This is, again, I hope that's at least somewhat informative and gets you somewhere down the road. Having waited since 2015 is not unusual for a U visa. I recently did one for a young guy. He's probably in his 20s, and I looked at him and I said, "Have you ever seen that movie Inception?" And he said, "Yeah." I said, "Remember that scene at the end where they're all old?" and he says, "Come back to the world with me and we'll be young." Said, that's going to be us, because that's how long these take. So 5 years is not unusual to wait for a visa to come up in the U program. If you'd like help or advice on that, you certainly can call me. My name is Joe Murphy. I'm a lawyer with Allegheny Immigration Group. My practice is primarily family and humanitarian immigration, like U visas, like the Liberian Green Card program. My cell, text, and WhatsApp are all the same number, 412-973-3442. And I do encourage you to look at our Allegheny Immigration Group Facebook page and YouTube channel. There's lots of videos on there that are, unlike this live, which is just me clowning around, those videos are really nicely produced. They've got captions, they've got headings, they've got great tips on different common immigration problems and questions. So those are there, and they're free. There's no charge to view them. You don't have to sign up. You don't have to like. You don't have to become a sub or pay 99 cents a month or any of that crap. They're just free. I make them and I post them for free as part of my job as a lawyer to give out valuable and accurate information about legal services. Hey everybody, this is Joe Murphy from Allegheny Immigration Group. I've got some great news for any of my clients or anybody in immigration proceedings that is dealing with a request for additional evidence or notice of intent to deny. I got word today on the USCIS website that all deadlines for requests for evidence and notices of intent to deny have been extended by 60 days due to the coronavirus. That means you calculate your original due date and add 60 more days to respond to that request for evidence or notice of intent to deny. This is pretty kind relief, and we're in pretty difficult times, so I think we could all use it. If you receive one of these and you need help calculating your new due date, or you need help responding to it during this time, call me. My name is Joe Murphy. I'm a lawyer with Allegheny Immigration Group. Our office number is 412-521-2000. My cell, text, and WhatsApp are all the same number, 412-973-3442. All deadlines on requests for evidence and notices of intent to deny have been extended 60 days, and we could all use it. Services. On that line, I want to make sure that you guys, and I see a lot of this going on in various immigrant communities, they're relying on the last generation of people from their home country or similar language speakers for advice on how to do immigration filings. This is foolish. Immigration law certainly changes commonly within one generation. Practices now, because of the topsy-turvy world and the immigration priorities of the Trump administration, they're changing all the time. I mean, like that. And you've got people that are, I see people that are filing stuff and addressing it to the Immigration and Naturalization Service. Guys, the INS disappeared in 2002. What's going on? Well, they're getting advice from the last generation of immigrants that had a similar experience. You can't do that anymore. And I'll give you another example. Those medicals. It used to be that a medical was good for a year. You could get it today and file it any time within the next year. Part of the deal when they extended the period of validity to 2 years was that they wanted you to file it within 6 months. Well, if you're listening to the guys who filed in the last generation, you're going to think you can sit on that thing for a year. And I talk to people all the time who do. And you can't do that. There's lots of changes to immigration law, and you just can't, oh yeah, well, Jimmy did it this way in 2005. Are you out of your mind? You can't, the thing is changing too fast. That doesn't mean you have to hire me. That doesn't even really mean you have to hire a lawyer. The information is made available on the USCIS website, but you've got to read it and you've got to understand what it means. And I'm not making fun of anybody who has a hard time understanding what it means. I just mean you're not going to make advantage of it if you don't actually take a look at what they're making available, and if you're not capable or willing to understand it. And that's really a large part of where I come in. I know what this stuff means. I'm up on it every day. I know about things like new green card programs. I'm talking to people, and I'm doing other filings, and I'm seeing the sort of snags people run into, tips, tricks, and things like that. And that's what I'm here to do. That's what lawyers do. They make things easier for you. So again, my name is Joe Murphy. I'm a lawyer with Allegheny Immigration Group in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I practice all over the United States, including regular trips to Brooklyn Park, Minnesota, to help people apply for Liberian green cards. I'm not going to be there this weekend. That doesn't mean you can't give me a call. If you want to call me, my cell, text, and WhatsApp are all the same number, 412-973-3442. Again, my name is Joe Murphy. I practice primarily family and humanitarian immigration. That means if you've got an employment-based case, I'm probably not going to be able to help you with that. I'm not in that field. I may be in the future, but right now I don't know how to do those kind of cases, and that's just what I like to do. This is again a live. I used to do a lot of lives, but I don't do as many lives anymore because people prefer shorter. People prefer captions, subtitles, all sorts of stuff. Somebody once told me, Joe, I love the lives, but I can't read subtitles. And I said, what do you mean? He said, well, I'm looking at your stuff while I'm in the supermarket checkout line. I have the sound turned down. It would be great if you had subtitles. Well, I don't have those. Hey, everybody, this is Joe Murphy with Allegheny Immigration Group. I'm here to talk to you today about a subject that is stressful for a lot of people and can be a real pain in the ear, and that is filling out applications for immigration benefits. Whether you want a green card, asylum, or any other immigration benefit, it has to be applied for on forms, and the forms are always a pain in the backside. I'm going to give you some tips in this video on how to get ready to do those forms in a way that'll make things easier for you and ultimately get your immigration benefit faster. Almost every immigration form that we're going to have to file on your behalf requires that we identify you. They want to make sure that you are in fact you and not that you're stealing someone else's identity. You'll have to give us your name, your date of birth, your passport number. If you have an immigration document like an I-94 or a work permit, we'll need to see those and photocopy them and copy the numbers down. Almost every application that we might file with USCIS requires that you give us your addresses for the last 5 years. For each place you lived, we'll need the date you moved there and the date you moved away. We'll also need your last address outside the United States, even if that was more than 5 years ago. We need an employment history too. We'll need to know each job you had over the last 5 years, the name of the company, the address of the company, the dates you worked there, and your position with that company. We also need information about your family. We'll need information about your spouse and any prior spouses. We'll need dates of marriage, dates of birth for your spouse. If you were divorced or that spouse died, we'll need the date of the divorce or death. We'll need to know where you were married and where you were divorced. For your children, we'll need their names, dates of birth, countries of birth, country of citizenship, and where they're located in the world right now. We'll need information about your parents, their names, their places of birth, their dates of birth, and if they're still alive, where they're living now. If you can get that information together, it'll make the meeting go faster and it'll get you your immigration benefit faster. This is Joe Murphy. Thank you for watching. I don't have those. All right, so we discussed a couple topics today. Recapping, the first topic we discussed was my pleasure. You're very welcome for the advice. If you want to talk further about that, give me a call on myself, 412-973-3442. So the topics. We talked about the work permits based on Liberian green card. They're coming in. We had 2 come in this week, and those are the first 2 applications we filed. Those were mailed on January 14th. USCIS gave us a receipt date of January 21st, and those the first receipts came in February 14th, and those 2 work permits were received today and yesterday. So that looks to be about a 9-week filing to delivery of work permit based on Liberian green card. And again, I anticipate that'll be longer as more cases hit the system. That was probably one of the first filings done. In fact, it was done on the old I-485, not the new one with the public charge questions, but let's see. All right, but they're moving. Okay, so people are getting those. There's still time to apply for the Liberian Green Card program. That's a 1-year program. It's available to. Yes, USCIS is working, and I'll be getting to that in a second. That's one of the topics we discussed today. The Liberian Green Card program is a program for people to get green cards. They have to prove a couple things, but otherwise it's almost an amnesty program, so it's great. They have to prove that they are Liberian. They have to prove that they entered the United States on or before February 20th, 2014, and that they've been continuously present since that time. And that means no more than 180 days out of the United States since November 20th, 2014. They also have to prove they have no major crimes, and that would be like felonies, crimes of moral turpitude, and things like that. If you fit that bill, you can almost certainly get a Liberian green card. We're running a special on Liberian green card through March 30th, and we're getting near the end of that, but it's a really great deal. It includes the Liberian green card, work permit based on Liberian green card, and that $3,000 includes all filing fees. So this is a great deal, and there's still time to take advantage of it. Even over this weekend, you can call me on my cell, 412-973-3442. You can call me, you can text me, you can hit me on WhatsApp, we can video chat. We have an online portal available. If anybody wants to sign up over the weekend, you can put your information in on the online portal. You can look at the terms of the program and all the promises that we make to you. You can even take pictures of critical documents with your cell phone and upload them over the portal. You could sign up for this program over a cell phone. I hate to say it'd be a fool not to try, but that's your own decision. I don't get to make that decision for you. All right. We discussed USCIS and whether they're processing. The physical offices are generally closed. The walk-in offices, they're afraid of corona. Some of the immigration courts are in fact still working, hearings, asylum, deportation hearings. Some of those are still going on in different parts of the country. For one reason or another, the federal court system and the immigration court is part of the federal court system, isn't taking corona anywhere near as seriously as some of the governors and mayors in various jurisdictions around the United States are. I can't speak to why that might be the case. There's all sorts of conspiracy theories in the world. I don't care why they're doing it different. I'm just noticing that. But yeah, USCIS, however, internally is still working. We're still mailing stuff to them. They're still accepting it, and they're still sending stuff back out. And I gave the example of the The green cards, or the work permits. I got one yesterday and one today. They were mailed right to my office. So that stuff's still moving back and forth. It's just they're not doing in-person visits, and I think that's just only because of the corona fear. Let's see. The immigration medical exam. I told you all that there are 2 important deadlines you have to remember when you get your immigration medical. One is that you have to file that with whatever application requires a medical within 60 days of the doctor signing that medical. So you can't get them and sit on them. Back in the day, medicals were good for a year. So you get your medical today and wait and just take it to your interview. You can't do that now. It has to be filed with USCIS within 60 days of the date the doctor signs it. Now, they are good for 2 years now, but that is of little use to you out here because you still have to file it within 60 days. But that's an important thing, those 2 deadlines. So it really is actually shorter now if you think about it, because you used to be able to sit on them for a year. And that changed in 2018. Let's see, the other thing was the prior bad marriages, and this is marriage denials. There are people who go to marriage interviews and they fail the interview. They have what is generally called a bad marriage interview. There are 2 types of denials. One is where they simply conclude that you haven't met your burden of proof in demonstrating that the marriage is fully bona fide. The other one is where they conclude that you lied, that you committed marriage fraud, that you entered the marriage for the purpose of evading immigration laws. If you get either of those, you're going to need legal help. But if you get the second one, you're definitely going to need legal help, because you're not going to be able to get any other immigration benefit of any type filed by anyone until you clear your name of the suggestion that you tried to commit marriage fraud. All right, there's a question. How long does it take to get the Liberian green card? Nobody knows right now because none of them have been issued. The program only started back in December of 2019. So, there's only been about 3 months of the program. And there haven't been any Liberian green cards issued yet. My guess, based on other refugee programs, is 6 to 8 months. I know the work permits are flowing now because I just got 2 this week, but we don't know how long it will take to issue the card. The flip side of that is some kind of word on the street I'm hearing, an urban legend, I don't know, but it's starting to make more and more sense based on the way they're doing other things. And the word on the street is that they're going to be backdated to the original lawful entry, which means the people who get Liberian green cards can sit on them and just be permanent residents of the United States, or they can turn right around and apply for citizenship. If they give you the 5 years credit, you'll have a permanent residency that's backdated 5 years. You'll be qualified to apply for citizenship. And that's a common thing in immigration law. They like a 5-year look back. It's almost like a trial period. They want someone to come in, apply for permanent residence, and be a permanent resident for at least 5 years before they get citizenship. They don't want to have you be here permanently until you've done that 5-year probationary period as a permanent resident. Well, why? Well, they want to see if you're going to start committing crimes during that period of time, or if you're going to engage in weapons trafficking or any of these other hideous things that people do, or if you're going to need welfare, if you're able even to maintain yourself in a very sophisticated modern society like the United States. There are people that get in here and aren't. And that'll all come out in the wash in that 5 years. And if you are one of those people that can't maintain yourself in a lawful and even feed yourself without help in the United States, they may say, look, we're not renewing this green card and we're not going to allow you to become a citizen. And that's called inadmissibility. But the thing about the Liberians, that's why they backdated the period. That's why in late 2019, when they were saying what's going to be the cutoff date, who's going to get into the Liberian green card and who's not, that's why they used 2014. That's exactly 5 years before 2019. And that gives you all the 5 years of that kind of probationary period. You've already done it. So there's good reason to believe that they may, in fact, backdate those Liberian green cards to your pre-2014 lawful entry, in which case anybody who gets one of those, if that happens, and I don't know that it's going to, but there's been a lot of discussion of that, if that happens, and you care to, you'll be able to turn around and apply immediately for U.S. citizenship. Now, that's a problem for Liberians, at least under existing Liberian law. I know that there is a movement to allow dual citizenship for Liberians, and I know that's gaining some steam, particularly in light of this Liberian green card program. But you can get a U.S. green card without, to my understanding, you can get a U.S., I'm not a Liberian lawyer, right? But to my understanding, you can accept and have a U.S. green card without violating the Liberian prohibition on dual citizenship because a green card doesn't make you a citizen. But if, at least under existing Liberian law, if you take U.S. citizenship, I believe that would violate Liberia's prohibition on dual citizenship. I don't know if that's a crime in Liberia. I don't know how they'd find out, but that's what I understand. So there may be reasons that Liberians who get their Liberian green card may not want to go and apply for citizenship, even though they'd be entitled to. On the other hand, some people say, look, I forget Liberia. I want to be an American. So that's fine too. All right, there's a question here. It says, if someone already has a pending marriage, can they still apply for the Liberian green card? They can, and they should. And there's a bunch of reasons why. Of course, you've got to pay for the Liberian green card. And there's an application fee right now that's $12.25, $11.40 for the I-485, and $85 for fingerprinting adds to that $12.25. If you use a lawyer, there's a legal fee. But the Liberian green card is not petition-based. That means it's not conditional. When you get it, you'll just be a full-blown 10-year permanent resident of the United States, your 10-year card. And again, the Liberian green cards are going to be, if I'm right, they're going to be backdated to your entry, so you'll be able to turn around and apply for citizenship right away. If you do a marriage-based green card, for starters, it's going to be a conditional permanent resident card. And the condition is that you prove it's bona fide through interviews, that you stay married and stay bona fide for 2 years. At the end, if you want to remove those conditions, well, let's do it this way. At the end, you have to remove those conditions, because if you don't, your conditional card is going to expire and you're going to be back at square one. But at the end of the 2 years, you have to pay again to remove the conditions, and then you'll get the regular green card. 3 years after that, then you can apply to be a citizen, because you'll have the 2 years in conditional status and 3 years in unconditional status. But you have to pay again. If you do the Liberian route, you don't go through all that conditional, you don't have to pay to remove conditions because they were never put on there. And you don't have to wait the 5 years to apply to become a citizen, if in fact that's your intention and you're not worried about whatever consequences there would be with the Liberian prohibition on dual citizenship. I know that was long-winded, and I'm sorry. If you want to talk about this again, my name is Joe Murphy. My cell, text, and WhatsApp are 412-973-3442. I'm a lawyer with Allegheny Immigration Group in Pittsburgh. I practice all over the United States, including Brooklyn Park, Minnesota, and I normally get there every 2 weeks. I'm not there this weekend because of the dreaded coronavirus, but I think this thing will resolve soon, and maybe in another 2 weeks I'll be able to start regular visits to Brooklyn Park again. In the meantime, because I'm not there, some people are missing their opportunity to meet me and take advantage of the last weekend of our Liberian green card special, and that special is the entire Liberian green card package except the medical, because I'm a lawyer and I can't give a medical. The package is $3,000, and that includes the Liberian green card application. That's us to prepare and file the Liberian green card application. We'll prepare and file application for work permit based on the Liberian green card application. We've got those coming in now. We'll file our formal appearance as your counsel, and that $3,000 also includes all filing fees. So this is a great deal. And again, this is to incentivize people to sign up. That is for sure good until the 30th, and I anticipated signing some people up this weekend. If you missed me in Brooklyn Park because I didn't make it because of Corona, I'm not going to beat you up about that. But you got to give me a call this weekend. You don't have to pay it all. All right. If you put some money down on the Liberian green card program, you can lock in that special price. But I'm going to have to end it soon. This thing, again, it was a loss leader. It was designed to get everybody in there. In a certain sense, I wanted to flatten the curve. I didn't want everybody jumping into my office at once in around Thanksgiving or something. But so I'm glad to be back doing these lives. It's nice to interact with people and see what people are curious about, to make myself available outside the normal bell curve. My name is Joe Murphy. I'm a lawyer with Allegheny Immigration Group in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I practice all over the United States. My practice is primarily family and humanitarian immigration. And humanitarian immigration includes things like the Liberian Green Card Program and representing victims of crime in U visa cases. It also includes applications for asylum, representing trafficking victims, and representing informants. It's fun doing this, right? And I like the questions. So I want to thank everybody who sat through this. I know I can be long-winded, make funny faces, and get off subject, but I really do thank you all for watching it. It's fun, and this is really good for me in a professional way too, just to see what people are thinking. Again, I really do appreciate all your time. My name is Joe Murphy from all of us here at Allegheny Immigration Group. Thank you for watching, and anybody who wants to call me after the live, my phone's available now. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.